Hello there everyone, welcome back to The Lovely Grind. My name is Michael Preby. My website is lovelygrind.com, where you're going to find blog posts and other information about spiritual connection, total health, and balanced living. Welcome back to this series of videos that I'm doing about prescription drug withdrawal and recovery. And today we're going to talk about the concept of balanced living. When you're taking medications like I was for anxiety or depression, I was taking Paxil for anxiety along with some Xanax. I was put on these medications a good number of years ago when I was in college for some anxiety and panic that I was suffering, and I got off of the Paxil about 4 years ago, the Xanax about 3, and there was a couple years of withdrawal preceding that period of time. So when you're taking those medications and then when you're going through the withdrawal that comes up after stopping those medications, one of the things that gets lost in the shuffle is the concept of living a balanced life. So that means paying proper attention to your mental health, your emotional health, your spiritual health, and your physical health. And putting those pieces of a healthy life back together in a balanced way, I believe, is really going to be one of the things that is going to help you eventually get past the withdrawal. It's going to help you day to day as you're going through it. You're going to build these little pieces of healthy living, put the piece of the puzzle together so that when you pass the worst of the withdrawal and you're perhaps stuck a little bit wondering when is the next breakthrough going to come, when is the next corner going to be turned, I believe it's really only going to be turned as you start really making a conscious effort to live in a balanced way. So let me just address the 4 things that I mentioned, the 4 kind of pieces of the balanced living puzzle that I came to realize were so important as I went through withdrawal. The first is emotional health. So I believe that means a few things. One of them is learning to say no. Learning to say no to some things that you don't want to do, whether it's a workload that's a little too oppressive at your job or a commitment that you don't want to make, either socially or professionally. It's okay to say no to some things. You don't have to constantly be putting yourself in situations for the sake of pleasing others that are going to eventually cause you problems. Your health isn't worth it, and it's not worth sacrificing your health to the gods of big pharma just because you're going to put yourself in situations to please others. So learn to say no. It's okay. Stop putting so much pressure on yourself. Pay careful attention to your own emotional health, how certain situations are making you feel. Don't be afraid to change employers and perhaps change relationships or back off a relationship for a while or say no to things. So that's the first part of balanced living. Don't feel bad about paying attention to your own emotional needs in a healthy way, in a smart way. The second part of the balanced living equation is going to be mental health. And I believe that a big part of that is working towards goals, staying sharp. Whatever your specific talents are, finding a life plan that really includes those talents. So like in my case, it's writing. So after a while of working outside of writing, I worked in education for a number of years. I made the decision to transition to a life where I was making writing a larger part of every day because that's really what I love. That's where I feel that some of my talents lie. For you, it could be any number of things, but in order to get that great mental health, you're going to want to feel a sense of progress every day, a sense of sharpening your talents, using them for the good of both yourself and others. So think about what those might be, and even if you're going through a painful and confusing withdrawal right now, you can start making little plans about how you're going to use your specific talents in a way that's going to bring you better mental health and emotional health overall. Spiritual health. That's the third part of the equation, and one that perhaps is going to be more important than any other because it's about more than just this life. When you go through something like withdrawal, such a profoundly painful, difficult experience, when you feel as if you're just an inch away from death every day, and every minute really, when you go through that, you start to really confront your own mortality and you start to realize there's got to be more to existence than just this confusing, short few decades we have on this earth. Now, certainly you're going to want to use the decades you do have on this earth to make the most of the life you've been blessed with. But you also want to have a view of something beyond those decades, something beyond the horizons that you can see every day, something eternal, a connection to that something eternal. So I'm a Christian, and I believe that connection is found in the form of Jesus Christ, in the way that he connects us to the Creator, in the way that he connects us to something that is so much larger than just the professional pursuits, the financial pursuits, and whatever else we're chasing after on a daily basis. So getting that greater spiritual vision is really probably the thing that's going to serve you uh, the most during withdrawal and afterwards. It's obviously going to serve everyone well no matter what they're going through, but specifically in withdrawal, you're going to find comfort, you're going to find connection, you're going to find a sense of purpose, and you're going to find a sense of well-being that perhaps was eluding you even while you were on the medications. So mental health, emotional health, spiritual health, and then the last part's physical health. As you're taking those drugs, a lot of things can go by the wayside, a lot of healthy habits. Part of just being an adult in a busy world is letting go of the basics, the healthy habits. You're maybe not sleeping right, you're not eating right, you're too focused on one thing when you need to take a step back and be so grateful for the many little things that you have. So for me, a big part of finding a balanced living equation during withdrawal and afterwards was getting back to the basics of healthy nutrition. I didn't used to eat during the daytime for many years. I was going through long commutes every day, about an hour and a half each way for many years, to sit in an office for 8 hours a day. So I was basically living on cigarettes, which I've since quit as well, Mountain Dew, coffee, an occasional bag of chips or sandwich. Then I'd have a large meal at night, often an unhealthy one, and then start the whole cycle over again. After a while, I started getting even anxious about daytime eating, avoiding it, and I thought that it would make me drowsy. Instead of looking at how it actually is the source of energy that you're going to need to keep any sort of mental, emotional clarity during the day and a sense of well-being. So, to that end, you're going to want to, little by little, even if it feels strange at first, get back to eating several times a day, whenever your times are, and getting back to incorporating a healthy sort of diet that doesn't involve takeout food, processed food all the time. These things are just fine. I'm not real strict in what I do, but I try to get enough vegetables, enough protein. I try to get enough fruit. I try to eat instead of starving myself for the sake of some fitness routine or time constraints. So just getting back to that sense of healthy, everyday eating that you perhaps once did when you were a younger person, just getting back to that, drinking enough water, and then to take a step further, trying to get enough sleep, although it's probably an issue for some of you going through withdrawal right now. It will get better, just like every other symptom. The sleep gets better as well. Speaking specifically to sleep, one of the things that I did during withdrawal to eventually get some sleep, I drank Yogi brand bedtime tea. And I know there's some withdrawal GABA receptor purists out there who would argue that valerian root in there perhaps affects the GABA receptors and therefore inhibits some sort of recovery. But withdrawal is really about doing what works for you, or surviving withdrawal is really about doing what works for you in an educated way. And if you can find something that's going to help you sleep for a couple extra hours a night that does not involve taking a pill or something manufactured by a drug company, then I say by all means do it, because that extra hour or two or three of sleep is really going to help you find a sense of well-being and some strength, and it's going to help your body and mind recover in a million ways that are eventually going to prove to have been extremely beneficial in your recovery process. So, to summarize, balanced living is really going to be that concept, I believe, that's going to get people through withdrawal and eventually over the hump as they perhaps reach a wall in withdrawal recovery. So some people perhaps have been off medicine for 12 months or 18 months or 20 months, and they're saying, I haven't felt any corner turn in quite some time. I don't think my recovery is ever going to come. It's just a myth. I believe it is going to come. It just is going to take a slightly stronger effort in some aspects day by day to put these pieces of a puzzle together. And then after a week or a month or 3 months of putting some of those pieces together, of eating right, getting moving little by little, getting spiritual, learning how to say no to the things you don't like, try to find more things you do like to say yes to, and also making plans for the future that involve things that you're passionate about and your talents. Putting those pieces together is really what's going to help you turn that final corner and really move full speed ahead to recovery. So, please visit my website, lovelygrind.com. That's where you're going to find blog posts related to all the stuff we just talked about. And by the way, next week there's going to be a blog post about one of my favorite breakfast recipes, protein pancakes. I call it Lovely Protein Pancakes. Only 48 calories per pancake and 5.5 grams of protein. And I also mix together some Greek yogurt and a boatload of fruit with it. And for a guy who used to have cigarettes and Mountain Dew for breakfast for many, many years, this is really a monumental development. And now I can barely go a day without it, and I look forward to breakfast. I make it for my wife, and I hope that some of you are going to enjoy it as well. I'll be putting that recipe out next week. Just go to lovelygrind.com and subscribe to that mailing list. You'll get that recipe as well as blog posts and all the stuff we just talked about in these videos here. So again, the withdrawal does get better. If you need to turn a corner, if you haven't turned a corner in a while, consider the concept of balanced living to be that final piece of the puzzle that you've been waiting for. And please stay with me for these videos. It will get better. You're getting better. You're doing just fine. Remember to stay connected and stay spiritual, and remember to stay positive, because eventually you're going to come through this stronger than you even were before you started taking medications, and certainly before the withdrawal. You're going to be stronger than you can even imagine right now. So stay connected, and God bless.